Okay, just going to open the bag. It's been sitting on the counter now at room temperature for about 20 minutes, maybe a little less. And all I want to do is to dry the meat off. Okay, it's really important to dry the meat off, especially the crackling. If you want it to crackle nicely, it needs to be dry. And the meat, of course, then it doesn't cause any spitting when the fat goes on. This is a piece of sage, which is what was cooked with the meat. And when I cook it in the pan, and it smells beautiful. Now, I've got a very hot pan here, or it's at least coming to heat very quickly. And if you've got a stovetop with a nice cast iron pan, then use it. The hotter the better. Let it come very, very hot, and then put a little bit of oil in there. Okay, you can see now my pan is smoking hot. The oil started to smoke a little bit, which is perfect. Now, gently put the pork in. Now, be careful because it does spit, and obviously if there's more water in it, it's going to spit worse. Now, during the cooking process, you need to use your tongs and gently push down on the meat. This allows all the parts of the meat to cook. Now, I just looked at that and I could see that it was a bit dry looking, so I've just rolled it around in the oil a little bit to make sure it's got a good covering. This meat is completely cooked. It's tender, it's fall apart tender actually, and I can see it's starting to fall apart there as I'm cooking it and it's warming. But gently hold it down at various places along the meat. That will happen. Pork does that. Now I can see my meat starting to burn a little bit there. I don't want that to happen, so I'm just moving it into the middle here where it should be a little bit cooler and turn the heat down slightly. Now you'll notice that I keep checking the skin. I want to see that each part of the skin is cooking evenly. I can see here we're missing a little bit, and over here. So when I turn this back down, my aim is of course to push those areas. So that was that corner, and in the middle here, thereabouts. So you just work the piece of meat to get the effect that you want. I'm just running this in to make sure it's got plenty of oil for cooking. I don't want too much oil because I don't want it deep frying in oil. But I do want the oil to cover it so that it does cook evenly. See how this area here is coming up to colour with the rest of it now? And this area I'm still working on. And I may not be able to reach it completely, but I'm certainly going to do my best to get it because that's how we would in a restaurant. So even though we're not in a restaurant, it's not hard to learn the simple tricks that make the difference between a really good meal and an excellent meal. They're minimal. Just paying attention to everything that's going on. See, I turned that up again to get a bit more colour. Now I've turned it back down again because it's a little bit too much. Okay. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into the oven, a very hot oven, which I've got mine warming behind us, and let it go for about 5 minutes. That will warm the rest of the meat through and allow the crackling to come to its full potential. Crackling side up, on top of a bit of baking paper, on a tray, whatever you've got, or a baking dish, whatever works for you. And then straight into it. My oven is set at the highest it can possibly go, which on this is only 250. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. All the fat is bubbling away there. It looks beautiful. It's ready to come out of the oven. Very carefully get your piece of meat out. Now I'd like you just to let it sit on a paper towel first. And just, if you like, wipe off the excess grease. Nobody likes a lot of grease on their plate. I'm telling you now, that is a beautiful crackling. Now, as this meat sits, as you would sit meat to let it rest, you don't have to, but a 5 minutes rest is really nice with this because it allows the crackling to crisp a bit. Just cut through the top gently because you don't want to destroy the meat. It is very tender. And that is our meat inside.